I preferred Project Hail Mary, and here's why. Rather than just giving a review of The Martian, I'm going to compare it to Project Hail Mary because I know that people tend to like one or the other better, and I happen to like Project Hail Mary better. And that might just be because I read it first, but I really don't think so. So here's my comparison between the two. And let me give a quick synopsis of The Martian first. So if you haven't watched the movie or haven't read the book, The Martian follows Mark Watney, who has been stranded on Mars. His crew all thought that he had died and they left, and now he's stranded there. So the book is about him surviving for over a year on Mars when he wasn't supposed to be there that long, so he has to figure out how to feed himself and how to like make enough water and air and everything, so he has to just figure out how to survive and contact Earth so that they know that he's alive and he's there and can possibly somehow rescue him. So that is the book in a nutshell. And while I think it's a really great concept, I don't know that it was executed quite as well as it could have been. And part of that is just that I didn't like Mark Watney. I didn't hate him, I didn't necessarily dislike him, I just didn't really like him. So it was a little bit hard to really care about his plight. Now, of course, I want him to get home. Like, this poor guy is stranded. Yes, let's get him off of Mars. I want him to survive. But I don't know, he was just a little bit hard to like in my opinion. And part of that is because of his jokes and like his nonsense all the time, because it didn't really come across to me. Don't get me wrong, I love a comedic relief character, I love a sassy, funny character, but something about the way Mark Watney did it just didn't work. So most of the book is told through his logs, and some of these he's not really sure anybody's ever gonna read or listen to because he's on Mars, he doesn't know if he's gonna be able to leave, but he's just keeping track of the days and what's happening and how he got stranded and everything. He just keeps track of his progress through these logs. So that is how the book is formatted. And he's supposed to be this nerdy, sciencey botanist slash astronaut. He's also an engineer, but his nerdiness just didn't work, in my opinion. He's always, like, he'll be in this life or death situation. Of course, he's not at the moment. He's retelling it and saying, oh my goodness, this terrible thing went wrong and this is how I fixed it. Or he's like, oh, this thing went wrong and I don't know how I'm gonna fix it. And in the middle of that, he'll like crack some really stupid joke. Or he'll be saying something and be like, oh, yay. And it just comes across wrong. Like, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. And he says at some point that like, duct tape is magical and should be worshipped. And I'm like, dude, it's not that funny. Like, that's really not that funny. So it's just stuff like that he says all the time that just doesn't strike me as funny. So the humor didn't land at all. So his character just felt goofy for no reason, and like really weirdly goofy, like annoying goofy, not actually funny. I started thinking if I were his crewmates, I wouldn't want to come back for him because I wouldn't want to have to spend another like year and a half on the same little tiny ship with him getting home while he's always saying stupid things. Like, dude, just be quiet sometimes. You don't have to say everything. So that was a big part of it, was that I just didn't like Mark Watney as much as I had liked the MC for Project Hail Mary. Now, I could not tell you that main character's name. I don't remember. That's just, I'm bad with names. I've only read it once and I only listened to it, so I never saw his name, so I can't even like picture it to recall it. But I did like that main character a little bit better. He also sometimes seemed to overdo it, but not quite as much as Mark Watney did. Something else that Project Hail Mary had going for it was that even though for the majority of the book we're just with this one character, because that's another book where the character is stranded. This time he's stranded out in space, not on a planet, but still he's just stranded and alone and doesn't know how he's going to get home. But in that one, we get introduced to another character. So the main character is no longer alone. He also has this buddy called Rocky. And without saying too much about Rocky and like giving anything away, Rocky was such a great character. Rocky was funny in the best way. He wasn't like annoying funny saying really stupid things. He just did funny things, and sometimes he was sassy, and it worked for his character. So I really loved Rocky, And The Martian doesn't have a Rocky. It doesn't have a sidekick. It doesn't have a buddy for Mark Watney. You're just with Mark Watney, and his funny does not work. He needed somebody else to be the comedic relief. It did not work for him to be the comedic relief, in my opinion. Now, something about The Martian that was better than Project Hail Mary were the real-time crises of other people also. Because in Project Hail Mary, we get a lot of flashbacks that tell us how our main character got to where he was. And so anything involving anybody else on Earth is in a flashback. There's no real time, this is what everybody's thinking, this is what's happening, this is what they're trying to do to help him. He is alone, and anything having to do with other people, with NASA, with anything else, is a flashback. Which was fine, and that worked out fine, but there's not that like immediate danger and that tension built up. It's just a flashback. This has already happened, it doesn't really matter to us right now. He obviously survived anything that happened there. It's just giving us more story, which was really cool in Project Hail Mary because he starts off with amnesia, and so we're learning as he learns, and so that's the point of the flashback sometimes, is like he remembers something, and so we get a flashback about like, oh, this is what happened here. So I do think the flashbacks were effective in Project Hail Mary, but in The Martian, we have real-time scenes that are happening on Earth because Mark Watney does eventually contact Earth. It's not really a spoiler. I think he does that pretty early on. He does figure out how to contact them. And even before that, I think we see what's going on in NASA and what's happening. But at least by the time he starts contacting them. So we have the real-time tension of what NASA is thinking and what his crewmates are thinking and what's going on back on Earth, what his parents are thinking and what they're going through. And it just adds this tension because it's all happening at the same time. And you don't know if these things are going to work because it's not a flashback, it's not what happened in the past, it's what's happening right now. So that did add a level of tension to The Martian. I think that was very good addition. I liked those scenes. I especially liked the scenes with his other crewmates. So I think that was a good part of The Martian. And let me be clear, I didn't dislike The Martian. I did like it. It definitely picked up towards the end. I felt like a lot more on the edge of my seat, a lot more interested in the story because it wasn't just Mark Watney having a problem and overcoming it, and having another problem and overcoming it, and figuring out what he's gonna eat, and then having to eat more potatoes. And a lot of the beginning and middle of the book felt kind of redundant and boring to me, because a lot of the beginning was just so much science, and then a lot of the middle is just very similar problems that get solved in different ways, so each new problem doesn't necessarily feel like a new thing. And any problems that do arise aren't necessarily happening in real time because they're all logs by Mark Watney. So this thing has already happened, he survived it. We might not know how he's gonna survive the next few days, but we know that he has survived the thing he's telling us about. Otherwise he wouldn't be telling us about it because he'd be dead. So I don't know, I didn't really love the beginning and middle too much. The ending felt a lot more interesting. It just seemed to pick up where like there was a lot more life and death. Some of it was not told through the video logs or even just like his written logs. So yeah, I felt like the ending really picked up and made the reading worth it to me. But it's not a book that I'm really eager to own. It's not a book I think I'll read again. It was a fun read, I'm glad to have read it, and I'm hoping to find more space adventure type books like this, but something more along the lines of Project Hail Mary than The Martian. Or if it's gonna be something like The Martian, then with a main character that I enjoy more, because that really was it. Y'all know that I'm a character reader, and I didn't like the one character that we spend 90% of the book with. So that did definitely make the book drag a little bit for me. If you're thinking of picking up The Martian though, here is a content guide from what I can remember. I listened to it on audiobook over the span of 3 days. But there was minimal swearing. Actually, there was more swearing in this one than there was in Project Hail Mary, and 90% of it was from one character who, I don't know, I didn't really like her either. She was like the media coordinator for NASA, and I don't know why she had to swear so much, but she does a lot of swearing, so there's quite a bit more in this one than there was in the last one. And there are a few like adult references, not very many, but a couple, and that's really it. I mean, like there's explosions and things going wrong, but there's not like violence and gore. So it's an adult book, but it's not like a really raunchy, violent adult book. It's adult. And I guess that is it for my review of The Martian. I hope that this was helpful. I liked comparing it to Andy Weir's other book, and I don't know if he's written others. I'll have to check that out. But yeah, I definitely still had Project Hail Mary fresh in my mind reading The Martian, so it was very easy as I was reading The Martian to compare it to Project Hail Mary, and I thought that would be an interesting way to frame this video. So I hope that y'all enjoyed that. If you did like the video, please leave a like and subscribe down below. And comment, have you read either of these books? Do you read a lot of space adventure, astronaut adventure type books? Have you watched the movies? I definitely was confusing The Martian with parts of Interstellar as I was reading The Martian. And I was like, how in the world is this scene gonna happen in the book? And then I realized that it doesn't happen in The Martian, it happens in Interstellar. So it's been a very long time since I've seen The Martian. But that is it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye!